Hi there, welcome to another burst session on high yield routines. This time we're talking about slow reveal graphs. And I'm Janice Novikowski. I'm the district teacher consultant for mathematics and numeracy in the Richmond School District. So slow reveal graphs are a routine that encourages sense making about data or data. And so it reveals information slowly, revealed slowly over time, so that students can pay attention, much like numberless word problems, to what is actually the structure of the graph and the information that is being shared. And then in between each reveal of new information, students turn and talk or think in their head and share their thinking about what they're noticing in the graph. The website is curated by Jenna Leib, and it's slowrevealgraphs.com. And again, teachers from all over the world send in examples of slow reveal graphs to her, and she posts them there, but she creates many of them herself. There's also other resources on her website as well. And they're all available, and you just download the slide deck. So this is what it looks like. It talks a little bit about what is a slow reveal graph, and then it has the list of classroom resources, the graphs that you can download, some professional learning opportunities, how to submit your own, etc. So when you go to classroom resources and you click on that tab, this is what pops up. So if you want to do something specific with your students, like circle graphs, you can go to all the circle graphs, or line graphs, or something around social justice. You can click on that. Looking at the elementary graphs at the top, those are graphs that have been curated that have topics that are more appropriate for elementary. And so as a teacher, you have to think about your students, your context. This is an American website, so some of the contexts are pretty specifically American, but there's lots of graphs on here that you could find to use for your context across grades. So this is an example of a slow reveal graph. And so you would download the slide deck and you would project them in your classroom, and you would show one slide at a time. So I'm going to go through that sort of process with you. So this would be the first slide. And so there's no numbers and there's no words yet. There's just a visual representation of data. And so at this point, you might just ask students, what do you notice? And they might just think in their heads, or you could have them turn and talk. And so some students might say, well, there's a big amount of yellow and then there's small amounts of yellow, but they may not know what that means. They are in order from, smallest amount to largest amount. So those are the kinds of things they might notice at this stage. And then the next slide gives a little bit more information. So now we know that that last bar on this bar graph stands for 2 hours. That's what that information is. So if that's 2 hours, then you might have them. You might pose the question something like, so what connections are you making? How does this new information help you think about this graph? If that bar is 2 hours, what might the first bar be? What might the middle bar be, etc. And then you reveal a bit more information. So what could this graph be about? And maybe now you have them do a turn and talk and share some of their thinking around this. What could take 1 minute? What could take 2 hours? What are we measuring here? We still don't have a lot of information, but we have some information now. So on the bottom of each slide deck, so this was the one I just showed you, it has some questions, prompts for you as a teacher. So I might ask at this slide, what new information did we just learn? Does any of it surprise you? What do you think this graph is about? So the questions are all built in for you. Now there's a title for the graph. And the title is Super Swimmers. How long can animals hold their breath underwater? Oh, sorry. Oh, I did that too quickly. So then again, having them think about what kinds of animals they might be, and then sharing the animals. And then this is the end. You could have them turn and talk and have them think, well, which one is 1 minute? Which one can swim underwater for 2 hours, 22 minutes, etc. And there's great debate usually about this. I've done this one with several classes. And then there's the reveal. And so that's sort of the final stage. And the students are always so surprised between the world record human and the average human, and that the alligator is the longest that can hold its breath underwater. So that's a slow reveal graph. It's just going through those stages and having them make sense of the information. Usually in the slide deck, it includes where the information came from. It might have been from a website. This one is from a book. This is a whole series of infographic books that you can get. And then that was the original graph as it was pictured in the book. And then when you click on that graph on the website, this is all the information that you get. You get where the original information came from, the slide deck, the type of graph it is, the source, and then the potential math connections, etc. So this is an example of how I used this routine and extended it into a full lesson in a grade 1 and 2 class last week. So we chose the slow reveal graph of the number of colors in countries' flags. And so again, bar graphs are not something grade 1s and 2s need to know, but many of them know how to read a bar graph. But we were just sort of thinking more about data and information. So again, the first slide just showed the red bars, and then the second slide showed the numbers across the bottom. And then it said numbers of colors, and then numbers of countries, and the title, etc. And so we also looked at the end of the slide deck, they had a different data visualization of the same information. And so all the flags that had 2 colors, you can see grouped together, 3 colors, etc. So the children were all excited to try and find the different flags that they knew. But this was connecting to the idea of a pictograph, which is part of the grade 2 math learning standards. So then we created our own concrete graphs using the children's shoes and how many colors were in their shoes. So from 1 color to 7 colors was the minimum and the maximum. And then they all took off a shoe and created a concrete graph with those materials. That is one of the grade 1 learning standards, is concrete graphs. And then one of the grade 2 learning standards is creating a pictograph. So the students created pictographs based on that concrete data that they had created. So that was our extension in terms of playing with how we can visualize information in different ways. And then that idea of what story does this data tell about us? Most of our class have shoes that have 3 colors. That's not maybe so significant, but we're building in this classroom some ideas around how can information tell us more about our class community type of thing. So this will be one of the graphs that is included in sort of the big class infographic. You can create your own slow reveal graphs. This is one that I've started creating on the right with the shoe information from that particular class. So this is just a screenshot from PowerPoint. And you can see I just started with the little squares to create a bar graph here. And then I added the numbers of colors across the bottom. And then I added the y-axis titled number of children. And I'll just keep adding to those. But you can do these on Google Slides, PowerPoint, Keynote, or Canva. And if you're an intermediate teacher, for sure, your students could do this. I would do it more collaboratively with primary students or students that have some real tech savviness. They might be able to do it with their classmates. For the English language learners in your class, just some adaptations to think about using concrete materials like the shoes or blocks to actually build the data in the graph and the relationships between those different quantities. Print copies of the different stages of the graphs for students to add word or number labels to make sense of the information and communicate in different ways. And then as you're revealing information about the graph, to include visual clues, pictures, photographs, icons, etc., to support an understanding of what this graph is about. Again, all the curricular connections, competencies, and content. Again, we have, there's a learning standard at every grade level around data and data analysis and data interpretation. And it's a very big part of being numerate. Many of the numeracy tasks that we develop in our district are around graphs or infographics. And students understanding information in different ways through different visualizations is a really important part of being numerate. So there's lots of books available, maybe in your school libraries, because I've been recommending these for a while, infographic books. And you can see the one on the top right was where the super swimmers graph came from in the slide deck that we looked at today. But these are collections of infographics for children to explore data and information in different ways. And then a new resource that's just come out, that show and tell book on the left there, great graphs and smart charts and developing infographics. And then on the district blog, You can see on the bottom there under the resources and book list page, there is an infographics book list, and that's what it looks like on the right, as well as some links to some websites for more information about graphs. So think about how you might use this high yield routine with your students, and thank you for joining me.